What's up, everybody? It's Demo with Demo Vapes. Tonight we're going to be taking a look at an RDTA. Now, normally RDTAs are not really the way that I like to vape. In fact, I generally hate RDTAs, but I've been really impressed by this little guy right here. This is the Pyro RDTA by Vape. Yeah, so there are a lot of really cool things about this RDTA that I think set it apart from other RDTAs on the market. Namely, it's very easy to wick, very few concerns about having too much cotton, and really makes it nice and easy to build and wick and get a hold of. I'm going to show you guys all the features when we go down up close. All right, tonight we have a 0.11 ohm interlocking alien frame staple build by my friend Mike Douglas over at Big D Coils. He's a good guy, he's local here in Minnesota, and he's part of the resistance team over on Instagram. I'm gonna put up little banners here and give you links down in the description to those guys. I'll tell you more about them when we come back from the up close. Let me vape it for you guys real quick. Super smooth airflow, lots of airflow. There's a little bit of a wonky situation going on with the airflow, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we come back up. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive down. Alrighty, everybody, here's the Vape Pyro RDTA. This is the packaging it comes in. Sliding open that packaging. Inside of the packaging, we have the RDTA itself. We have a glass section in case you don't like the Ultim there. And we have a knurled Delrin 810 drip tip. Here's a quick closer look at that 810 drip tip. They're calling this a dock tip, but I don't believe it's actually by the brand Dock Tips. So take that with a grain of salt. It's a knurled Delrin 810 drip tip. In the bottom, we have the Vape Pyro RDTA user manual. Inside that user manual, we have the normal stuff showing you an exploded view, telling you how to build and wick it. Very basic instructions here, and where you can get your customer service. Also some safety information here. Below that user manual, we have the usual bag of spares with a tri-tool there, some extra grub screws, a 510 drip tip adapter, and a bunch of O-rings. The grub screws they give you here are hex head grub screws. The ones that are installed in the RDTA are in fact Phillips head screws, as well as being compatible with a flathead. So they give you the option with that, which I always like to see. And here is the Pyro RDTA. Starting at the bottom, we have a nice protruding 510 center pin, as well as having a protruding peak insulator. I have zero problems running this on a hybrid mod whatsoever. Moving up, we have a 4 mil tank capacity with an Ultim tank that comes on it. As I said earlier, you can replace the Ultim with glass that comes with it, in case you don't like the look of the Ultim. Moving up, we have an adjustable AFC here. Twist to adjust. Whatever happens on one side will happen on the other. Now, one thing I'd like to point out real quick, and I'll touch on this a little bit later, there is an issue with the AFC. It comes from this little cutout below here. I'll talk about that a little bit more later when I open this thing up. And on top, we have a Ultim 810 drip tip, which is really in there. Give me a bitch to get out sometimes. All right, popping this guy open. All right, and here we have the AFC section here. As you can see, this is broken down into two parts. You have a top cap here and an AFC ring here. I'll pull them apart for you. In the top cap section, you've got the AFC holes on each side, and you have a nice conical shaped design on the inside. Sorry for the wetness there, I just cleaned this product. Lovely machining, no burrs, scratches, or anything else. Came to me nice and clean. And here we have the airflow ring. You can see that in some ways this is similar to the Pulse 24 that I just reviewed, in that it has these airflow blocks that come in and are slightly angled down. It's hard to see on camera, but they are slightly angled down. Underneath that, we've got these plugs here. These plugs go into the juice fill port. That way it won't leak on you if you tilt it a little bit. All RDTAs are subject to a little bit of leaking, but I've not had any huge problems with this RDTA leaking, to be honest with you. I actually set it on its side overnight one night, and came back in the morning, no leaking. And here is the deck of the Pyro RDTA. As you can see here, we have our negative block and our positive block right there. Negative blocks milled into the deck. We have our huge wicking ports on each side right here. They are fantastically easy to wick. Really, this RDTA, I think, sets the standard for RDTA wicking. It's so easy, and I really haven't run into any issues with dry hits or struggling to make sure the cotton's wicking correctly. It wicks fantastically. On either side of the deck, we have these juice fill channels right here. Very easy to get your dropper bottles in there, chubby gorilla bottles. You might struggle with your Sriracha tip bottles. I've had some issues with that. It's very easy to not really get the juice in there if you're using Sriracha tip bottles, so just be aware of that. Now, Now, you'll notice something interesting here is you can see right here, we have this little ramp up here, and that's kind of cool because the way that works is this bottom part of the cutout right here goes and targets that ramp. When you have this wide open, that bottom part allows the air to hit right on that ramp and goes up and underneath your coil. So you get sort of a side and under coil airflow effect without adding two airflows. It's kind of an ingenious design and it works really well. However, if you close down the airflow, you'll notice it cuts off that channel there. So if you close it down halfway, that channel no longer exists. Coupled with these little tabs in here, meaning that you can't rotate this entire assembly on the deck, means that A, your airflow is not gonna hit straight onto your coil, and B, you're cutting off that channel down there. So that channel is really only useful when you're vaping this thing completely wide open. This all comes apart very easily. You just unscrew this. Nice and easily. Deck comes off, it's attached to the 510 there, and your tank is held on by an O-ring here on the base. Go ahead and screw this back together. Lovely design, very intelligently designed RDTA, and these post holes can accept some really huge coils. I am going to be installing today a set of these interlocking aliens. I got these from Mike Douglas at Big D Coils on Instagram. I'll have a link down in the description. Awesome looking coils. They're an 8-ply interlock alien frame staple. So great coils. These should be nice and low and they should fit in there just fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and build this, wick this, and we'll get back out to the top view and I'll vape it for you guys. One more thing I wanted to show you guys real quick before we go down and build it. The way this works, I just put the AFC ring on top. The way this works is that you have to put your coils nice and close to these on either side, but it's very easy to do because you build them right in the center, so there really isn't a whole lot of adjustment you have to do. But anyway, I'll show you that more in my sped up build section, and we'll go to that now. Everybody, and that was the Pyro RDTA by Vape. Yeah, I've been having a really great time with this RDTA. Again, I really don't like RDTAs in general, but I find it very easy to wick, and I find it very easy to build on. Very little effort. The filling system is really nice, and it's just been great. Tonight, we're vaping on this Milk Plus by Bonsai Vapors. It's amazing. It is a salted caramel milk, not overly sweet, which I really like. Anyway, as I said in the beginning of this video, the coils I'm vaping on and the coils you saw me build with were made by Mike Douglas over at Big D Coils. He's part of the Resistance crew. I might have called them the Resistance team in the beginning. It's the Resistance crew. I'm gonna give you links to their Instagrams down below. Just wanted to tell you guys a little bit more about building teams. This team was formed as a way to kind of collaborate and share ideas and teach and learn from one another. So it really is helping build up the building game on Instagram. So I'm a huge fan of it. Go check them out when you get a chance. All right, straight into the pros and cons. As usual, we're gonna start with the pros. First pro, super smooth airflow. Sometimes you can get a little bit of a whistle depending on your build, especially if you pull your build a little bit too close to the airflow channels. You hear that little bit of a whistle going on? Not bad. I haven't had a whistle problem with other builds. This is the first build that I've put in there that I've had trouble with whistling, so you may or may not have an issue with that. But this RDTA has great flavor, even wide open. The way that the airflow is designed gets the airflow right into your coils, and then your coils sit right in the center, and the vapor just goes straight up. So very efficient design, very minimal loss of flavor going on there. Really bringing out all these nice notes of the Milk Plus, and these coils in here, oh god, they're fantastic. This RDTA can take really big builds. You can build some really big coils on it and just really have an easy time installing them in the post holes. But also on the same token, it can take smaller builds as well. So it's not like some RDTAs, which the post holes are just way too far apart, and really you can only fit series builds in them. You can fit a wide array of coils in here. I think the tank has pretty good capacity. Yeah, if it held any more juice though, I think it would be a little bit too tall. So I think 4 mils is a good capacity. Some RDTAs out there are holding like 2 mils, and I just don't see the point at that point. You might as well just have a dripper. You're gonna be filling up the tank so often. The filling system is super easy, albeit a little bit messy sometimes to fill. The only issue I have with it is that when you take this all apart, you have to find a place to put it down and get your bottle in there and stuff. It can get a little bit messy, especially if you're on the go. If you're at a table, no big deal, but typically I need a napkin with me when I'm doing it or something to wipe up any juice. I think this is a pretty cool looking RDA with these little scallop cutouts up here. Makes it very easy to turn this knob, and it's just really nice and fairly minimal design, but little touch of style up here. I always like that. Another pro is it is really awesome to have the option of either a glass or Ultem tank. I know a lot of people out there really don't like Ultem, so I'm not one of those guys. I think that Ultem looks fine. I typically leave it with the Ultem just for better durability. You have the option to put glass on if you want, and that's a huge pro. This thing really doesn't leak very much. I have put this on its side overnight, and I really didn't notice too much leaking. So it really doesn't leak a whole lot, and that I think also is a huge pro, especially for an RDTA, because they are really susceptible to leaking. Finally, I think the biggest pro of all for this is it is very easy to build and it is very easy to wick. Wicking for me with RDTAs is always a huge struggle. This has no problems with that at all. Obviously, if you're putting 3.5, maybe 4 millimeter coils in there, you might have a tough time. You might have to thin that cotton out quite a lot, but even with 3 millimeter coils, I thin my cotton out a little bit, stuff it right in those channels, and it wicks really well straight out of the gate. And on to the cons. As I said earlier, the filling system can get a little messy. Not a huge deal for me because I typically find myself filling this at a table where I'm able to set all my parts out and stuff like that. But if you're in a car or on the go, you might find that this gets a little bit messy. One con I've been noticing with mine is that these O-rings right up here, when I take this off, one of the sides here, the O-rings kind of squish out, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to really show you this, but when I go to push this back on, it doesn't want to go down all the way, and then this O-ring on this side wants to squish out, and you sort of have to do this little wiggle on mine where I just sort of wiggle it back and forth to get it to seat, and then it still doesn't always seat. I don't know if you'll be able to see that there. Yeah, so I can't really get that to seat down. Even if I push it down, the O-ring still kind of pushes out of this bottom here, and it's just kind of a bummer sometimes. Let's see if I can get it on. It's always this side. There we go. So yeah, that can be kind of a pain in the ass sometimes. The airflow can get kind of whistly on you depending on how close you put your coils to the airflow. I haven't noticed it to be a huge problem all the time, but when I first installed this build that's in here right now, I had the coils super close to the airflow to get really good flavor, and I found it just had this horrible whistle, and I corrected it, and I really shouldn't have. I really should have kept it the way it was to show you what it sounded like, but even still, now wide open, it has a little tiny bit of a whistle. It's not too bad, but it's there. And lastly, my biggest con, and I think what might be a deal breaker for this RDTA, is that when you adjust the airflow, you're cutting off this little bottom section right here, this little bottom section that goes down into the ramp underneath your coils, and if you adjust that closed, even just a little bit, that ramp goes away completely. In addition to that fact, your airflow is then no longer lined up perfectly centered with your coils. That may not be too big of an issue with the fact that you've got those tubes on either side, but I'm not a huge fan of that design. I think it's kind of an oversight on their part. Yeah, I'll vape it for you guys right now, about halfway closed off. Flavor really jumps. It gets a little noisy. Here it is at a quarter open. Gets really tight. Woo. And then we've got 3/4 of the way open. Yeah, to be honest, in order to use that ramp and the undercoil airflow effect, you really have to leave this wide open, and I think that's a huge bummer because if you're not a fan of really big, wide open airflows, you're not really going to be able to close this down without suffering some sort of ill effect, and that for me makes it a huge deal breaker. So moving right into the conclusion, would I buy this again? No, I wouldn't buy this again. It's just to the fact that I still don't think that this RDTA, despite it being a lot better than most of the other RDTAs I've used out there, I still don't feel that it is good enough. There are lots of issues that arise when you try to do this under-deck tank thing. You're fighting gravity. An RDTA has to really, really blow me away with the way it vapes in order to make up for the fact that I just don't like RDTAs. Now, if you like RDTAs and you're sitting there going, Demo, goddammit, stop shitting all over my favorite thing, then I'm really sorry. We're gonna have to agree to disagree. If this airflow problem didn't exist, I don't think I would have a problem with it, but as it stands, unless you're vaping this wide open, you can't use it to the fullest potential. Now, that said, if you do like really wide open cloud chaser style airflow, then you might really like this, so keep that in mind. What I may not like, you may love. If that sounds like something that you would be interested in, definitely would highly recommend it, but for me, definitely wouldn't buy it again. All right, as usual, I'm gonna put some links down in the description for all of the things that you saw here today, including the coils from Big D Coils and the Resistance crew. Go check them out on Instagram. They're a great group of builders and put out some really beautiful coils. Man, thank you guys so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe on this video. If you didn't like what you see, please leave a comment down below and let me know what I could do better. Also, go follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is @demo_vapes. I'll have a link down in the description for that as well, but go follow me on Instagram because I'm gonna go ahead and put a giveaway over on my Instagram for the 500 subscriber giveaway for my channel here. So if you want to get in on that giveaway, you're going to have to go check out my Instagram there. All right, guys, that's all I have for you tonight. Demo out.